Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to For the People. I have a good guest with me today, who is actually a colleague of mine at Marshall McLennan, and also I would say a good friend as well. Chris Poulos, welcome to the show, brother.
Well, thanks for having me, Dwayne. I appreciate it.
Not a problem, man. Appreciate you. So Chris, he's has over 30 years of experience in risk management, benefit implementation, and also healthcare reform. Chris, I appreciate you coming on, man, and doing this. And, this is kind of organic for me. And, I really feel like that people need to, be educated on a lot of these topics. So what better person to come and do that with you? I mean, with all your experience. So let's get right into it, brother.
No problem, man.
Cool, man. First question. So in your opinion, what has changed for employers with employee benefits since COVID-19 all started? I know we've all been wrapping our heads around the whole COVID. And in your opinion, what has been the change, or what you've seen the difference since then?
Well, I think generally speaking, what I do is I kind of break this in two phases. So the initial phase, once COVID-19 impacted the U.S., which was generally in the middle of March, is where we saw the impact of COVID-19 hit. Started seeing the shutting down of businesses and organizations across the U.S. Probably the big thing we saw there initially were terminations, furloughs, and layoffs. And so that certainly impacted employers across the spectrum, regardless of what industry you're in. It affected everyone. Subsequently, the government did a nice job of kind of peeking into the portal, so to speak, for benefits and providing some clear path on what to do for testing, what is happening with treatment, things of that nature. So that's kind of morphed into treatment and testing and things of that nature being included in the coverages that most people have. I think probably the most difficult thing is this kind of ebb and flow in the spike of COVID. So March, April, May, and I'll even call June all the way through maybe halfway through July. Especially a lot of my self-funded cases, I saw a lot of claims experience improve dramatically because there just simply weren't that many claims being created in that time frame. People were scared to go to the hospital. They were scared to go to their providers. Claims subsequently have gone down in that time frame. I saw them spike back up to kind of the normal levels in the end of July into August and September. And now that we have a big spike in Ohio again, we're starting to see those claims actually go back down. My fear is that if it is an emergent situation, people are taking care of things. You have to go to the emergency room, you have major catastrophic health issues, those are being taken care of. The problem is the routine physical exams and things of that nature are not being done. And what faces us in 2021, I don't know. So we'll see as this thing kind of matures and we kind of move through 2020 to see what the outcome may be. I do believe if any positive has come out of COVID, and there are very few, if any, right? There's really nothing positive. No one really planned for a pandemic.
Right.
I think the one positive that's come out is the advent of telemedicine. It has exploded on the scene. We have had it, people have used it, but they used it very, I'll call it unwillingly, and they didn't use it as a tool within the arsenal of healthcare. And during March, April, May, June, we saw a lot of telemedicine being played out, which again, I think those things are going to be here to stay. I think, when you have something for so long, we're going to see that for quite a bit of time.
I agree.
I think telemedicine has been really tremendous. The use of technology is going to continue all the way through 2021 and beyond. So,
no, that's really good analysis. And I want to touch back on that later on as well. But moving on, so we have this crazy, I want to get political, but crazy circus of election that just got done or still going on, right? And, now that it's sort of all done now, regarding healthcare, and healthcare reform, because in our jobs, we're constantly thinking about, what's legislation going to be about? What education that we need to know so we can disseminate it to our clients, right? And so what do you think the ACA as a whole, as it pertains to employers and companies, where do you think that's going, I guess now or after, maybe the president-elect is in office?
So I'll be frank. I think once the Biden administration takes control from an economic standpoint, not only the ACA, but Health and Human Services, I really believe we're going to see an expansion of the ACA. Look, I know that I am fairly apolitical. I think both sides, they have a lot going on and they need to do a lot better. Both sides certainly do that, but there is no such thing as perfect legislation. I had an opportunity to read the Affordable Care Act. That was one of the first things I did. It took anybody that said they could read it in 3 days doesn't understand what they're saying. It took a 7-week process to really read all of the legislation, including the manager's addendum to the piece. But I think in the end, I think they will continue to expand it. They will improve it. There are some things that need to be removed. There are things that need to be added. But the pillars within the ACA, and those are the main pillars, which are guaranteed issue, no pre-existing conditions, and no rescissions, which means that you can't eliminate an individual from your plan because they have an inordinate amount of claim. That was done years and years ago in kind of the HMO style. Those are not going anywhere, and hopefully this administration will be able to reach across the aisle and make some meaningful changes to the ACA, and we can all agree that simply nothing is perfect, and we can improve the platform. So I think there's some positives moving forward.
Gotcha. Well, let's hope so. I mean, because we don't.
Well, that's what my hope is.
We hope so, absolutely. So, moving on. So, a lot of companies are so focused on, especially us as benefit consultants, we're so focused on the healthcare side, and like I said, you're experiencing healthcare reform. But as far as employers and their employees, what do you think is? Do you think it's a good idea? Because I keep hearing about voluntary benefits. A lot of people that I meet with, they're saying that, hey, I've been contacted about voluntary benefits. I know with our company, we stress that with our clients. What do you think? Do you think having voluntary benefits in a company is important? I mean, what, in your opinion, in your experience, what do you think?
So I can only give you my experience, and I've been doing this for 37 years. So I've just dated myself. But with that said, if you'd asked me that 25 years ago, I didn't really understand the concept of voluntary benefits because benefit structures within employment groups were so robust and so comprehensive that people had $100, $200, $500 deductible plans. So I didn't see the rationale. But as we started to see deductibles and coinsurance numbers continue to rise at a rapid rate, and now it's not uncommon to have a $5,000 deductible with an out-of-pocket maximum of $10,000, which is an extremely high amount of money out of pocket for any individual. I see how these voluntary products are now coming into play to help mitigate or offset some of those costs. So whether it be, critical illness or whether it's emergency coverage, those are certainly factoring in on the entire mainframe of the benefits platform. The things that I never thought we'd be doing, and I see it in countless times now, I never thought of pet insurance as an offering from an employer benefit standpoint. It never dawned on me. I never thought in my wildest imagination that I would be reading contract language on pet insurance. It's just not in my thinking, but more and more clients are asking for it. We're seeing ID theft as a part of the offering. We're seeing legal services as a part of the offering, as well as other types of coverages. I think that the positives of this in allowing the employer to really kind of provide and be the gatekeeper is they're able to vet out those types of products and services, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to do and people are buying what they expect to be buying. And they're buying it at group rates instead of individual type products. There's nobody like us on knocking on doors, going from home to home. That's gone away with kind of back in the 60s. It's all long gone, right? So here it's important that the employer provide at least that opportunity, but to make sure that the opportunity is being vetted out and it's doing all the proper things. The proper companies are in play.
I think that's super important because, any company, as far as growth and what you offer to employers and companies, I think you need to be flexible and need to look at different avenues, to provide for, your people, your employees. So I think, you brought up pet insurance. I think a lot of people maybe for a long time thought that was essential, because their pets are probably one of the most important things besides their kids, right?
Right. So family member.
Exactly.
A family member. Right.
Yeah. I know you got a couple of dogs. So,
right. That's their family members now, right? My kids are grown up and out of the house, but the dogs are now family members.
Absolutely. No, I get that. So that's a very good point, man. So,
right.
So in the grand scheme of things, man, at the end, so what do you feel like are the biggest challenges, if any at all, in your opinion, do you foresee companies facing, in the aftermath? So once they say they got a vaccine now, that's 90% effective, and
right.
we're going to start dishing that out to, millions of people, hopefully by the end of the year. So in the aftermath of all this, and we get to 2021, what do you foresee anything happening with companies as far as the biggest challenges, getting back to normalcy, if you will?
So I think again, I'll break it down into two pieces. So, prior to COVID, concerns by an employer or certainly an HR director were retention of employees and from a standpoint of am I providing competitive pay as well as comprehensive benefits. I don't think that has changed pre-COVID, and it's not going to change in the aftermath of COVID. So those are the things that most HR directors and CFOs are going to look at. I mean, both HR director and CFOs have always been vexed by how do I get my people healthier without being too invasive? How do we bend the cost curve? How do we give employees choices within their healthcare, again, within the parameters set forth from a cost standpoint? I think in the aftermath of COVID, as we now, it looks or it appears that we are on the cusp of getting a vaccine, which is, God, I'm so thankful that a lot of these pharmaceutical companies have put it into hyperspeed. And I've been one to be a little negative on pharmaceutical companies just because of the cost of some of the the pharmaceuticals that they're creating. In this case, the faster, the better, as long as it is safe and people can take it. I think it's going to be a great leap forward, and we can get back to somewhat level of normalcy we have. I do think that even with the vaccine, that some of the changes that were made internally going through COVID are not going to go away. And so I think wellness is going to be front and center like it always has been. I think technology is going to provide a huge factor in all of this. It's amazing. Now I have an Apple phone, and it can monitor every major health issue I have, if I have any. And so technology is going to continue to ramp up and be an effective part of the kind of the tools that can be used to keep your group relatively healthy. I think transparency is going to be the key as well. So I've always told my health partners that are out there, the physician groups that are clients of mine, the hospitals that are clients of mine, look, you're going to need to become incredibly transparent so people can make a conscious decision whether to go to you regarding, what those costs are within that picture. Now, everything is a little different here and there depending on your diagnosis and how difficult maybe that may be. But some of the mundane things like x-rays and different medications that are out there, different procedures that are generally routine. People are going to want to know what those costs are, and so they're able to kind of pick and choose accordingly. I do believe that competition is good at every level, even medicine. It is good. So if we have relatively the same pharmacy prescription, where can I go to kind of mitigate some of those costs and bring those costs down? And that helps not only me as a consumer, but it helps the group in general. So we have to find a way to bend that cost curve within health insurance. And I think the transparency and, maybe we will see, and probably not with this administration, but maybe the next one or the one after that, some type of public-private option. I know that Medicare for All is being talked about and discussed, and maybe it's 55 years of age and or greater, maybe it's 50 years of age or greater, but somehow we have to give some relief to the employer groups. When we're starting to see $2,500 to $3,000 a month rates for family, just think about that for a moment, $30,000 to $36,000 a year to provide healthcare to a family. And now we're seeing, $1,000 to $1,200 rates for an individual. So that's anywhere between $12,000 and $15,000, we'll call it, in costs. It doesn't help. It doesn't help from a competitive standpoint if you're an employer and you're providing that, because you need to be competitive and you need that key individual in your arsenal. So you have to provide these benefits, but we got to find a way to bring these costs down. So, or we're, just looking at normal trend at 7 to 9% over the course of the next 10 years, we're looking at doubling the cost of every one of those numbers I just gave you. I don't know how it's sustainable. So we're going to have to come up with some, like I said, some kind of public-private opportunity, or just as, again, it's not sustainable moving forward.
I tell you what, man, I'm sure your clients are very appreciative of your knowledge and, your advocacy for them to, do the best job that they can for the company. So again, I appreciate you being on the podcast today, Chris, and, go check him out on LinkedIn. Email address is chris.poulos@marshmma.com. Chris, thanks for being on the show today, man.
Dwayne, I appreciate it. You have a great day.
You do the same, man.
All right, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.